Hello, everyone. This is your host, Deborah Poneman, and your Life Without Limits, where we share with our listeners knowledge and tools for shifting consciousness and reaching our highest potential. And I'd like to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Andy Fuehl, who will be speaking about how to have wealth without a job. After years of loyal service working in corporate America, Andy was laid off, and his income went literally overnight to zero. By modeling some of the most successful people on the planet, Dr. Andy implemented what he discovered and went from being unemployed to becoming a millionaire in less than 3 years. He now teaches the same secrets and strategies to wealth that he discovered and has helped thousands of people turn their financial futures and their financial presence completely around as he fulfills his mission of making this a more prosperous world for average people like himself. And on this call, you will discover how to take the 3 simple steps for going from where you are to being wealthy, earn more money in any economy doing work you love, beat the odds regardless of what anyone tells you, take the mystery out of being a successful entrepreneur, make decisions like wealthy people do, decisions that lead to wealth quickly, easily, and without stress, and finally, how to have wealth without a job. So, Andy, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the call.
Well, thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that. I'm really excited to be here today.
Well, I am excited, too, and I think that everyone is very interested to hear how they can have wealth without a job. And before we dive into that portion of the call, can you take a few minutes and share with us what you believe were the turning points in your journey that brought you to where you are today?
Absolutely. I used to work for corporate America for over 15 years, and I was in the major high-tech industry at the time. And I was making a 6-figure income at that point. And the interesting part about it is as I was going through, I rapidly progressed inside corporate America, and everybody thought I was nuts when I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Because what started happening along the way is every time I thought I would find more happiness and fulfillment, I didn't. And what I thought would give me fulfillment was take on a bigger project. And that's literally what happened. The last project I took on was over a $4 billion project. It doesn't get much bigger than that. Really? And as I kept going and I kept moving up in the ranks in corporate, I became more and more dissatisfied. I knew there had to be more. I just didn't know what it was. That's one of the key things that really compelled me to do what I'm doing today.
Well, as you say, it doesn't get much bigger than that, a $4 billion project. But the turning point was, were you actually laid off? Like you're one of the, what do they say, rising up the ranks, and they fire you?
Oh, yes. Yes, that's exactly what happened. In fact, this is where it got really interesting. I was high enough up on the chains I could see this coming. And for months, I knew it was imminent, because I saw what was going on. And I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, well, I have a decision that I'm going to have to make at this point. And that's what really came about. So when the day came and I knew layoffs were happening, I had to make the decision and finalize it in my mind. And, in fact, I actually made the decision a couple weeks before. I actually cleaned out my office. I only kept the very bare minimum that I needed. And I cleaned everything else out, expecting to leave. And here's what I did. I said to myself, if I'm not on the layoff list, I'm putting myself on the layoff list. This is literally a decision that I had to make, which was a key turning point for me, because at that point it was kind of scary. Because, well, I could stick with my perceived safety of a 6-figure income or go out into the unknown. And literally at that point in time, I did not know what I wanted to be when I grew up.
So you didn't know what you wanted to be, if you didn't get laid off, you were going to put yourself on the layoff list, and you left, you had zero income, you didn't know what you wanted to be when you grew up. So what happened next?
At that point, what happened next was this. They actually had 2 days of layoffs. Now, can you imagine this? So anybody who was with the company for 10 years or less got laid off the first day. And, well, guess what? I was there for more than 10 years. So I got to see all this the day before. And I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, this is so depressing watching this. I actually left early. I said, what are they going to do, fire me?
Right.
I didn't care. I really didn't care. But the second day came around, and my manager came up to me and says, well, come on, I need to talk to you. I said, okay, great. So I went into his office, and he goes, well, due to recent economic circumstances, we're going to have to lay you off. I said, wow, that's fantastic. I said, how fast can you get me out of here? He looked at me. He was like, what? And he was actually starting to get nervous. There's a whole story that goes behind that, but it was funny. To make a long story short, though, they literally escorted me out the building. And when I left the building, it was as if the shackles came off. It was very interesting. I never had a liberating feeling like that ever before. And from that point in time, now I came to the realization, I was like, okay, well, now what do I have to do? Which brings me to finding my purpose in life, my true purpose in life. And what had happened was I was actually living my inherited life. And when I quit doing that, I literally went from being unemployed to becoming a millionaire in under 3 years. And actually, I took the long way around compared to some of my students. And so what I want to make sure that others learn is the secrets that I discovered, how to make that successful transition.
All right. Well, then why don't you tell us the first 3 steps from where we are to being wealthy? We'd like to know where to begin.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things, actually, that we have to look at prior to that. We have to first understand is, why do so many entrepreneurs actually go out of business? Have you ever wondered that?
Actually, I have, but yes, I have.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be an important thing to understand, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Well, here's a statistic. I mean, most people are familiar with this. 50% of all businesses fail in the first year. And 95% of all businesses fail in the first 5 years. Now, here's the interesting thing. Most business owners come into a business with a job mentality. And let me give you an example of this, okay? So when you're going to school, right, weren't you taught get good grades, get a good job, make a lot of money, and retire comfortably? Have you ever heard that before?
I have.
Yeah. Okay, but when you go to school and you have these people called teachers, what do they have?
Well, they have a job. It doesn't pay very well.
Okay. So now you even have a disgruntled employee potentially. But here's the thing. If they have a job, how can they teach you to be an entrepreneur?
That's true.
They can't. Okay, so then you get to high school and you have teachers and they have a what?
A job.
A job. Well, they can't help you there either. Okay, so then you get to college, okay? And you have these guys called professors. And they have a what?
A job.
A job. Oops. Now, let's take a look at my old and dear friend, Phil Lott, who was the best-selling author of Money is My Friend and also my co-author of Wealth Without a Job. He actually went to Harvard Business School. Now, in Harvard Business School, you would expect to become business savvy, right?
You would think so.
You would think so. Here's an interesting thing about that. Okay, so those professors at Harvard Business School have a what?
A job.
Oops. How can they possibly teach you to be an entrepreneur? And in fact, Phil even proved that point. When he became an entrepreneur back in the 70s, he failed miserably with a Harvard business degree. Now, how is that possible? See, and these are the things that we have to understand, because when you're coming from that job mentality, isn't that going to be a problem? How can you possibly succeed as an entrepreneur?
It happens rarely. Let's put it that way. Very rarely.
That's correct. So, a person who has a good education is actually less likely to succeed as an entrepreneur. Have you ever thought about that?
Interesting. Huh. Can I interject something here?
Sure.
My son, when he was 15, he started a business, and he started business recruiting high school basketball players for college coaches, and he became extremely successful. There was a full-page article on him in Sports Illustrated when he was 16. It was like, why college hoops coaches seek the advice of a 16-year-old scout, and he was featured in Wall Street Journal and the Chicago Tribune and on, Fox News, ABC News. And he dropped out of high school, even though he's literally a genius, and always scored everything in the 99th percentile, because he came home one day in the middle of his senior year and he said, I can't do this anymore.
Good for him.
He said, and I said, I don't blame you. He said, I'm sitting and learning, trigonometry and physics and reading literature that he used to read on his own, like the lives of autobiographies of people who became successful, but he couldn't take it anymore. And it was exactly that. He said, if they taught me entrepreneurship, I'd stay, but I cannot stay and pretend that I care what these people have to teach me.
There you go. Now, let me ask you something. Where did he get that from?
Surprise.
You wouldn't have anything to do with that now, would you?
Well, maybe a little bit.
Well, let me ask you something. How long have you been an entrepreneur?
I've never had a job.
Oh, now, let's take a look at that. Okay, so you're telling me that you have never had a job. Now, when children grow up, okay, the first people who are their role models are their parents, grandparents, and, extended family. So he actually had a role model that said no job. Yeah. And that's where he picked it up from.
That's right.
And in the early stages, because he had that, he didn't have to get rid of all the garbage that most people do. Like I had to get rid of a ton of garbage. In fact, I've got a master's degree in electrical engineering and a doctorate's degree. I mean, those things were more of a hindrance than a help. They were great for corporate America, but they were not good for me in an entrepreneurship because I had to literally brainwash myself, literally just take my brain and wash all that stuff out.
So, and I interrupted you in your story. And by the way, I have to say, I actually had a job for about 3 months. I tried to sell investments, and I was such a dismal failure that was the end of that. Then I went back to being an entrepreneur. But so how did you do that? How did you, because, I mean, again, my son, he's the exception, grew up with us, but what do we say to the rest of the world who needs to wash the stuff from their brain if they want to become entrepreneurs?
Well, that's a really, really interesting question right there. Because here's the thing. What you focus on expands, okay? And when I started focusing on getting my mindset right, which, by the way, is the number one, the first step in becoming a successful entrepreneur, you must get your mindset in the proper order. And if you get this wrong, I mean, most people are just like, well, I got to work on my business. No, you don't. In fact, if you don't work on your mindset before you work on your business, I guarantee you, you will have no business. How do I know this? I've got 3 failed businesses to prove this. And I went 6 figures upside down in the process. Wow. So not a pleasant place to be, and I strongly recommend don't try that at home. That's not a good strategy.
Okay.
Learn from my mistakes, okay? Learn from mine. It'll save you a ton of money and a lot of headaches. Okay? Let's just take a look at what did school do to us, okay? School literally made us become like a parrot. What did we do? We took in information, we parroted it back, we took the test, and we forgot about it. Isn't that true?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, guess what? What does an entrepreneur do? They're not parrots. If you're just sitting there regurgitating information, it isn't going to do you any bit of good, and you're not going to help anybody. We, as entrepreneurs, are here to solve problems. And that's what we get paid for. That's the key distinction. Now, if your mindset is that of a job holder, well, what are you doing in a job? You're told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, as an entrepreneur, what do you have to do?
Figure it out yourself.
That's right. You tell yourself what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Do you see the problem? Mm-hmm. Okay, now, if you come from a mentality of having this programming going on that says, I need to be told what to do, and I have to be told how to do it because the only thing I'm good at is parroting from what I've learned in school, and then on top of all that, I have this thing called an inherited purpose. Oh, my goodness. We'll have to talk about that here in a minute. All of those things you're fighting, and this is why you have to work on your mindset first, because you have to get your thinking in alignment for solving problems for others. And you have to get yourself in the mode of, I have to do things that I don't want to do necessarily. I have to take action when I don't feel like it. And I have to make decisions. Here's a key one. I have to make decisions all day long. And then, not only do I have to make the decisions, but here's what all successful people do. And I've modeled a lot of people, a lot of successful people. And the number one key thing that they know how to do is make decisions. But number two is they commit to their decisions. And see, most people, what they'll do is they'll go out and they'll buy some self-help and they'll use it, maybe listen to it once or maybe even just get through the first couple of lessons, and then it winds up on the shelf, or they complain and they whine and they say, well, you know, this stuff isn't working. And then it becomes what's called shelf help.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm sure, you know, we all have some of that stuff sitting around on our shelves collecting dust. Okay, it does nobody any good. But here's the thing. When you make the decision and you commit to that decision to either make it work or figure out that it doesn't work and then change it and make a new decision and commit to it, that is the only way that you're going to succeed. And that is a mind shift change that most people have a very tough time getting their head wrapped around.
Yeah, well, do you think everybody's capable of doing that?
Absolutely. Everyone is capable. I'm telling you, I have worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of people from all walks of life. In fact, I've had people who came to me, I mean, just absolutely dead broke. They were never an entrepreneur in their life, and all of a sudden they're making 20, 30, 40, 50,000 a month in their own business. Nice. And why is that? It's because they were able to wrap their mindset around. In fact, listen to this. I had one student. She came to one of my courses, and she said, I can only stay for half. And Erica was my student, and she came there, and she said, I don't know what to do. I said, really, you don't? I said, we've covered all this. I said, well, what's the first thing that you need to do in order to be successful? She goes, well, I guess I got to make a decision. I said, well, have you decided to stay? And she goes, but I don't have enough money to stay. I said, have you made the decision to stay? And she says, well, I guess not. I said, well, when are you going to make that decision? I said, well, I guess I could do that today. I said, oh, how about now? And then she looked at me and she's like, oh. She goes, this is painful. I said, okay. I said, but you're getting through it, right? She goes, yes. And so I said, now, when would be a good time to make this commitment? And she goes, right now. I said, great. I said, make the commitment and make it out loud. Now, this was after the class was over, and this was late at night, and we were just talking one-on-one. And then she goes, okay. She goes, I've made the decision. I said, great. How do you feel about it? She goes, wonderful. I said, now, commit to it. She goes, okay. I said, just commit to doing whatever you need to do. It will come. She says, all right. I said, now you've got to trust that it's going to happen. So the next morning she comes into the room and she makes an announcement. She asked me, she goes, can I make an announcement in front of the room? I said, well, sure, go ahead. Because I knew what she wanted to do. And so she makes an announcement in front of the entire room, and she says, some of you know that I was having a problem and I had to leave today. She goes, I made the commitment that I'm not leaving. And she says, I may need your help in order to get this done, but I'm staying for the rest of the class. And they all cheered her on and everything else. And here, it was interesting. So we did an exercise. And by noon, not only did she have enough money to stay at the hotel for the rest of the time, she had money for all of her expenses. She bought a new wardrobe and put $1,000 in her pocket.
By noon?
By noon.
Okay. Well, so are you saying that that's the power of making the decision, making the commitment?
And having the right mindset.
Having the right mindset.
That's the key. And the decision and the commitments are part of the mindset piece. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Those are key components of mindset because as an employee, are most employees capable of making those kind of decisions and commitments?
It doesn't appear to be so.
Yeah, go look around.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you're not sure of that, just go look around.
No,
it becomes very apparent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Apparently not, because I do look around. And this is so interesting because there are so many people who have jobs who say that they want to do something entrepreneurial, but it's almost as if like an invisible wall. They just can't move through it. And I guess it's a wall that's been built up since they were children.
Absolutely.
Yes, okay, I got it.
Yeah, and this wall, it's not like you ever had this wall. It was developed over time. Yeah. You learned that wall.
Okay, but let me ask you this. You said something about inherited purpose and true purpose, because one of the problems that people have, the reason why they just stay in a job their whole life is because they can't figure out what their true purpose is. I have people who are, they're yearning to find that true purpose, but they just can't. So they stay put because they don't know what else they were put on earth to do.
Correct. And I agree with you 100%. And here's the interesting thing. Let's talk about inherited purpose. So inherited purpose is what others gave you during your programming cycle. In fact, if you didn't know this, you actually went through a programming cycle from the day you were born until about the age of 21. Now, from 0 to 7, you literally took everything uncritically, unfiltered. So any garbage that you received went straight in. There was no filtering whatsoever. Then from 7 to 14, you looked up at your role models. Well, let's take a look at your role models. Who would they be between 7 and 14? Parents, grandparents, extended family, and these people called teachers. Mm-hmm. Authority figures, policemen, firemen, etc. Then from 14 to 21, you learned all this wonderful stuff from your peers. And of course, at that age, you were all smarter than everybody else, and now you got their stupid programming to boot. Did you see where this is going, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I went through all that, and so let me explain to you what happened to me. So my inherited purpose was to go to school, get a college degree, go work in a non-factory environment, because my dad, he always worked as a tool and die maker, and he says, you don't want to do this kind of work. And before then, he worked in factories of sorts and whatnot. He says, you really don't want to do that. He goes, you want to do something, use your head. And that's exactly what I did. And I got paid well for it, but that was my inherited purpose. But I was miserable. But I lived up to my parents' inherited purpose that they gave me. This is like becoming a doctor right? Lawyer,
Yes.
butcher, or candlestick maker, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Your parents are going to tell you, oh, well, you should be this, or you should think about being that. And at that age, you take that information uncritically. And that's the problem. Now, once I found my true purpose in life, which is in my wealth without a job system, and it's literally, once you understand it, it's as if you could not fail. When I figured out what my true purpose in life was, the first thought that went through my mind was, oh my goodness, I'm going to get real skinny on this deal. And I like to eat. I said, I'm going to starve. This is not going to be good. I said, there is no way I can do this. And luckily, my partner Phil at the time, he said to me, he says, look, he said, if you focus on your purpose in life, whether you think you can do this or not, it doesn't matter. It'll work. He says, you're just going to have to trust in that. So I said, okay. I started doing it. I started coaching people how to be in business. I started doing all sorts of different things. And the next thing I know, when I really started living my life on purpose and sharing some of the top secrets that I've used in business over the years, which I never even realized, it would be so powerful from an entrepreneurial perspective. The minute I started doing that, everything started to change. Then I started hooking up with other people, great mentors like Dolph DeRoos, best-selling author of Real Estate Riches, one of Donald Trump's professors. And I actually modeled him at an unconscious level. This is one of the gifts that I had. And I actually figured out how he buys real estate at the unconscious level, stuff that he's never taught anybody before. But it was so obvious to him, he just naturally did it, but he never shared it with anybody because, well, he didn't realize that he was doing it. And I learned how to do that. And in fact, I even wrote a book with him as well. Yeah. Interesting things. But see, all of a sudden, everything just starts to change when you start getting to your true purpose in life. In fact, can I share a story with you about a student of mine where this was his exact problem?
Yes, please do, because this is what we need to know.
Wonderful. One of my students came up to me and said, Andy, I really need your help on this. I said, okay. I said, what's the problem? He goes, oh, well, I'm 70 grand upside down. I said, okay. I said, so what's the problem? He goes, perhaps you didn't hear me. I'm 70 grand upside down. I said, yeah, so? And he looks at me, he's like, what? He goes, that is the problem. I said, no. I said, that's the result of the problem. I said, let's take a look. What's the problem? I said, what did you do to get there? And he said, this is what he told me. So he goes to me, he says, I'm investing in real estate, and he seems like everything that I touch just literally goes south on me. I said, okay. I said, well, let's take a closer look at that. I said, whose system are you using? So he told me. I said, okay. I said, that's a good system. I've seen that system before. I said, so nothing wrong with the system. I said, so where are you investing? Now, he tells me where he's investing, and at the time, it was in Utah. Now, in that particular market, it was the hottest market ever. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, now this is getting really interesting. I said, so you're investing in the hottest market ever using a great system, and you went 70 grand upside down. He goes, yep. He says, the worst part about it is, he says, I see these people all around me, complete idiots, don't have any training, that are making money hand over fist. I said, how is that possible? Then it hit me. I said, I wonder if your purpose in life is off here. So I said, we're going to do your purpose in life right now. And the big joke has always been, it takes 3 months and 45 minutes to do your purpose in life.
3 months and 45 minutes?
Yeah. 3 months of procrastinating, 45 minutes to do it. So I said, okay, let's just cut to the chase. We're just going to do this thing in 45 minutes or less. So I took him through the purpose in life process. and that's in my Wealth Without a Job system. And literally, when we were done with it, I said, read your purpose in life to me. So he reads his purpose in life to me. Then I asked him the fatal question. I said, now, does your real estate business express your purpose in life? And he says, no. I said, that is your problem. And by the way, the purpose in life is actually step number 2 to the 3 critical pieces. So you have to know what your purpose is. So then I asked him, I said, okay, I said, great. I said, let me ask you this. I said, what business would express your purpose in life? And so he thought about it for a minute. He goes, I'm really excited about selling nutraceuticals. And, and I thought in my own mind, I says, oh my goodness, I said, I couldn't sell pills, lotions, and potions if my life depended on it, because that's not my purpose. But I said, okay, I said, but that's for him. I said, okay, great. I said, now, I'm not asking you to set up a nutraceutical company because, well, that would take far too long. I said, why not get involved with a network marketing company that you feel would be a good fit? He said, good idea. So he goes out, finds himself a network marketing company, and here's what happened. In 6 months, he went from being upside down to being in the black. On the 7th month, he started making $20,000 a month, consistently.
Okay.
But why is that?
Well, are you asking me? Because
yeah, why do you think that would be?
Because he was in alignment with his purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. So obviously you have a system that helps people figure out what their purpose is, which is awesome. And then does the mindset come before figuring out the purpose, or you figure out the purpose and then you have to have the mindset and then you go?
Actually, it's far better if you get your mindset tuned up first. Now, you can do number 1 and number 2 in parallel, but here's what will happen. If you don't work on your mindset first, and then you start looking at your purpose in life, you may actually have a preconceived notion that you might not make money.
Okay.
And that's what happened to me.
Okay.
Because when I looked at it, I thought, wow, there's no way I'm going to make any money doing what I'm doing today. And yet I've proven that, yeah, I can make money doing this.
So, and that's why you say you can create wealth in any economy. Because what if this guy, and I love the story. I absolutely love the story. He got clear that what he would love to do is sell nutraceuticals, and he got out of the $70,000 debt in a short period of time, and then was making $20,000 a month, and I'm sure more than that as the time went on. And what if the thing that he wanted to do was something that he found that his life's purpose was something that doesn't traditionally make money? For example, there are a lot of people who like to play drums, or maybe they're 50 and they want to be fashion models or something like that. I mean, that might be a little bit, extreme, but what if somebody finds that what their purpose is something that traditionally does not create wealth, and not in any economy, but in any economy?
Okay, that's a really good question. Now, let's take a look at that. First of all, there's a belief behind that, isn't there? There's a belief that says you might not be able to make money with it. Now,
that's right.
That's all mindset now, isn't it?
Yes, you're right.
So if you believe you can't, you're right. If you believe you can, you're right.
Okay.
Because your unconscious mind must prove you right. That is the key of what the unconscious mind actually does. And in the Wealth Without a Job system, you actually learn a lot about that, because I talk about how the unconscious mind works at a very deep level. And there's 55 beliefs that can literally take you out. And if you don't know what those are, how can you ever get around them? And that's just 55 beliefs around money.
Okay.
So let's take a look at that situation again, right? Maybe being a 50-year-old fashion model, okay, there's not a high demand for it. But here's the thing. If this is truly your purpose in life, I guarantee you there's a market out there waiting for you. You just have to figure out where it is.
There are some.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Okay, are there not categories of products for people ages around 50?
Yeah, yes.
Well,
yeah, you're
how do you put a 20-year-old in as a fashion model to sell a 50-year-old clothes?
Right.
It doesn't work.
So what you're saying, because I know one of the bullet points that you said that you're going to address is to beat the odds regardless of what anyone else tells you. So what people usually tell you are things like, hey, you're 50, you ain't going to be a fashion model. Or I know I had a cousin who wanted to be a drummer, and everybody told him that he would never make money being a drummer. And, you know, all of the relatives. But there are people who make money being drummers. So I guess it has to do with getting clear on your purpose, having the mindset, and then is there a step after that besides going and doing it?
Absolutely. Okay, so now we've gotten the first two steps pretty much out of the way, right? So obviously you can see we keep coming back to mindset all the time.
Yes.
That's why it's number one. Now the second piece was purpose in life, but the third piece is this, is you must find the right vehicle that expresses that purpose in life. And sometimes that's not obvious. Okay? Because you can be a drummer in numerous different ways. Could you not?
Yes.
Okay. So you could be part of a band. You could be part of maybe background music. You could be a drummer for all sorts of different events. See, you just have to start thinking a little bit about, well, okay, how do I apply this drumming so it does express my purpose in life and that I can actually make money?
Okay, so you have to find the right vehicle, yes.
That's correct. So just because you want to be a drummer doesn't mean you're going to be a successful drummer, even if your purpose in life says that, unless you find the right vehicle of drumming. Because somebody out there is looking for you to fill that niche, and only you can fill that niche.
So in your program, do you teach how to find the right vehicle?
Absolutely.
Because that's another huge thing. Like you say, there are a gazillion different vehicles, but people get stymied. They don't know where they go catatonic because they don't know which direction to go.
That is correct. And, you know, that's part of the pitfalls that happen as being an entrepreneur, right? I mean, first of all, your beliefs, your programming, what you received as a child, that has a ton to do with it, right? And if you're coming to the table with a job mentality and you have an education and skill set that is not in alignment with entrepreneurship, you're going to have a real rude awakening. The other piece of it is when you start getting into a business that looks like it can make money. Remember the person that we talked about got into a business because, well, it was making money.
Right.
Or at least it appeared like everybody else was making money, so he thought he could too.
Right.
And I made that exact same mistake several times, and that's part of the problem. And mindset, it keeps coming back because 90% of success as an entrepreneur is mindset, because that's your foundation. The rest of it is the 10% is actually working on your business. And see, people get that formula backwards. And we go extensively into this because once you start understanding your mindset and everything else, it starts to align with your purpose in life, which makes it easier to identify the vehicle that you're going to get into, because now you're not going to be swayed by, oh, gee, this business over here looks like it's going to make money. I think I'll do that.
Right. Okay.
And we all know how that's going to end up.
Right, exactly. Well, no, here's another question, though. One of the other things that you say is that it's important who you associate with, and your associations affect your ability to create wealth. So is that something else that you need to change if you are surrounded by people who are either naysayers or people who are just never going to move out of their JOBs? I mean, if your associations are so important, how do you create new ones when you know the ones that you have right now aren't healthy?
Oh, that's an excellent question. In fact, when I went through my journey, I have literally lost almost every single friend I ever had. And in fact, I had to ask my parents to retire from being my parents.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a tough decision I had to make because my mom, even to this day, says I should get a job because, well, what I'm doing is too risky. It still cracks me up, but
we must have the same mom.
I said, well, hey, thanks for sharing, Mom. It's like I love you too, but I think it's time for me to get off the phone now.
Yeah.
But literally, you do have to separate yourself from your friends, and there will be a natural falling out with a majority of them. Anyway, because as you start growing, you become further and further apart in mindset from the people that you're dealing with, and guess what? The attraction breaks because like attracts like. And so you're going to have a natural attraction to new and different people who are going to be more in your mindset, and you want to actively seek those people out, seek out mentors. When I went through this process, I literally seeked out the top people in the industry. I mean, I've hooked up with Fuehl, Dolph DeRoos, Robert Sheeman, Omar Periu, numerous other people. I mean, on and on and on. And I've been on the stage with a lot of really successful people. Now, how would I be able to do that? It's because I changed my mindset and I made it a point to go out, meet these people, talk with them, find out what makes them tick, hang around with them. And the next thing you know, I became friends with them, and lo and behold, I'm in business with them too.
Okay. So do you recommend that we seek out the people that we admire in the industry that we feel holds the purpose for our life? And, I mean, do you recommend that we do that?
Absolutely, because
Start
you want to surround
them?
yourself. You want to surround yourself with those kind of people.
Okay. Good.
Because if you don't, what's your alternative?
Staying where you are and being held back probably energetically by the people. Okay.
Well, let me ask you something. Have you ever hung around with some people that you just knew weren't good for you, but you did it anyway?
Absolutely.
And what was the end result?
The end result was it not only held me back, but it also, it was stressful. You know what it was? I'll tell you what it was. It made me feel inauthentic.
Ah. So you kind of felt plastic, did you?
Well, you know what it was? No, it was more than that. It was like I would hang around with these people because I would feel that I didn't want to. See, I come from the other side. I didn't want to abandon them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. And how well did that work for you?
What was that worth? Nothing.
It didn't work for you at all, did it?
Oh, it didn't work for me. No, it did not work for me.
Okay. Well, and that's the whole point, because those kind of people, the only thing that will happen is they will drag you down. Literally. I mean, all my friends and my family, even though I love them dearly, and they love you too, the thing is, they just don't want to see you get hurt, and what they do is they pull you back to where they're at, thinking that they're going to protect you.
Yes.
That's what happens.
Yeah,
so don't just ditch your family and friends and tell them, hey, get out of my life. You're no good for me.
Yeah, and when I say inauthentic, when I say I felt inauthentic, it was because I didn't want to, quote-unquote, hurt their feelings, so I stayed in relationships, and I acted like they were really great, and in the meantime, I was dying inside because I knew that they were holding me back. And the other thing that I see, one of the other tragedies, you and I were both from Chicago, and we see there are also cultures that are absolutely dead set in not letting people move out of, for lack of a better word, the neighborhood or the culture. And it takes Herculean effort to extract yourself from that energy.
Absolutely it does. It is amazing when you start to realize that and how that really messes up your mindset at the same time. Because think about it. Here you are. You didn't want to abandon them. Well, isn't abandonment just a mindset thing?
Yeah, it's all mindset. I got it.
Well, here we go again, right? Right back to mindset and your beliefs, right? So at some level you had this belief that if I abandon these people, something bad's going to happen.
Oh, that's right. That was my belief. Exactly right.
Oh, imagine
Whoa.
that.
Imagine that. Man, I got to take your course. I'm telling you, sign me up.
Well, you're going to have an opportunity.
Seriously, I never looked at that because I thought that something bad would happen. Yes, you're exactly right, and it is mindset. Okay, so here's a good question for you. What is the single most important action that we can do right now to make these changes in the quality of our life from today forward?
Wonderful. I like that question. The number one thing that you can do, whether you decide to invest in my materials or somebody else's materials, it really doesn't matter. Find the right materials for yourself to tune up your mindset. That is the number one thing. And here's the thing. First, you got to make a decision to go do that, right?
Okay.
Then you have to commit to that decision. And once you've made the decision and committed to tuning up your mindset, then you're actually going to go do it. And step 3 is obviously action. You're going to have to take action.
Okay. So we make the decision, okay, and we make the commitment, we take the action, because it's like the foundation of the building. Don't start building the building if the foundation isn't strong, because
that is
the
correct.
building is just going to collapse.
That is correct.
And mindset is the foundation. So the most important first step is to create the mindset that is going to be established to support our success, or we're going to go into the whole, $70,000, $100,000, or we're just going to go back to our old job.
That is correct. And in fact, let me share with you one student who really grasped this particular concept, completely transformed her life. This is what she did. So she came to one of my Wealth Without a Job courses, and this was the entry-level course. She showed up, and we said a couple of things from the stage, and then all of a sudden she comes up to me on a break, and she goes, you know what? She goes, this is exactly what I have been looking for. And she says, I want to take the rest of your courses, but I don't have any money. I said, oh, what a shock, right? This seems to be a common problem.
Right.
And so I told her this. I said, well, why don't you finish up the course, and I guarantee you, if you really understand what we're talking about here, I said, you will find the money before the course is up. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was a 3-day course, and this was day 1. On the 3rd day, she comes up to me and she says, I just signed up for everything you had. I found the money. I said, how cool is that? And so, from that point forward, she took several different classes, and at that point we just happened to have them scheduled, one right after the other, and she started coming to every one of the classes. Well, 6 months went by, and she came back to the first class again. And I said, Elizabeth, I said, you've already taken this class. Why are you here? And she goes, well, I tripled my income, and I want to do it again. I said, well, good for you. I said, and it's definitely possible. A month later, she calls me up, And it was like a little schoolgirl. She calls me up and she says, Andy, guess what? I said, what? Tell me. She goes, today I became a millionaire.
Jeez.
7 months from the day she started with no money. Okay? Now, I haven't told you the best part. Because she focused on her mindset first, and she really understood those principles, everything else fell into alignment. Then she figured out what her purpose in life was and started finding that right business that expressed her purpose in life. That's how she did it. And she did this at the young age of 79.
Oh, whoa.
Now, if Elizabeth can do it, so can anyone else. Because everybody in those classes, and I will share this with you, everybody in those classes, because she was obviously the most mature student in the room, they all thought she was the weak link. In fact, we teamed her up with a young hotshot in a couple of the exercises, and she just absolutely smoked them. Why? Because she understood the mindset piece of it. That's how critical that is. And what she did right in that moment, in day one of the class, she made a decision that she was going to tune up her mindset, that she could find the money to take the rest of the classes to get the information that she needed. Then she made the commitment to go do it. And she took the action. I have never seen anybody take such fast and furious notes. I mean, her pen was on fire. I mean, it was smoking the whole time.
Okay, so now I'm not going to let you go any further until you tell us about your offer, because I am very excited. In my life, it's about helping people get control of their lives. And I know that you have amazing knowledge for us that is really, genuinely going to shift our lives. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about the special offer that you've created for everyone who's listening to this call. And by the way, I highly encourage everyone to go to Andy's special offer page right now. It is yourlifewithoutlimits.com/wealth. And if you don't know how to spell it, learn right now, because if you do this, you are going to have it. And it is spelled WEALTH, yourlifewithoutlimits.com/wealth. Now, can you let everyone know what they'll find there?
Absolutely. What they're going to find there is they're going to find our Wealth Without a Job system. And this was the CD set of the live 3-day training that you just heard about that Elizabeth took. And that was what transformed her life just absolutely completely. Now, the Wealth Without a Job system actually has 32 different methods that produce the mindset of an entrepreneur, as well as all the tools that you'll need to really figure out the business of your choice, and you're going to discover your purpose in life. Very key point. So all the three things that we've discussed, getting your mindset tuned up, figuring out your purpose in life, and then figuring out which vehicle to use is all in that system. It's a 14 CD set. The one thing that it's really going to do for you is this too, okay? When you really start to understand these concepts of the wealthy, which you will be taught in there, and you're also going to learn how to get rid of all the negative beliefs that you have around money that are stopping you. Remember I said there was 55 of them?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot of them. And those are covered in that training. And once you get rid of those things, now all of a sudden your mind is clear and you start to gain laser beam focus. And in fact, what I've also done, this CD set we've sold for many, many years for $895, but that is what it's retailing for. And we have sold it so many different places, and we sold thousands of these things. Now, I've also included a few other things that I normally don't include. Now, I have a 21-day Wealth Without a Job online course, which will actually take you through a lot of the fundamentals in the basic mindset. And if you can grasp that, it's actually video-based, it's interactive, and you will actually be tested on all the principles that you've learned. And if you can master that, It will really tune up your mind. And here's the best part. I'm not going to want you to do this alone. That course in itself retails for $795. But I'm going to allow 3 other people to come on there with you so you have a support team. So I'm going to give that to you for free. That's a $3,480 value. The other thing I'm going to give you is another bonus called the 90-Day Wealth Conditioning Program. Now, when I created that program, I actually created it for myself, and for the longest time I did not share this with anybody. But the 90-Day Wealth Conditioning Program literally will take you step by step what to do on a daily basis. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes a day. You don't even have to do all of it. Some people have just done very small portions of it and literally have doubled and tripled their income in less than a week. In fact, one client I had, he was so resistant to using the system, he goes, oh man, this thing looks overwhelming. I said, look, it's not overwhelming. I said, you're just looking at it the wrong way. I said, look at day 1. He goes, oh, okay, I can do that. And so he started doing it, and he did it consistently for 2 weeks. That's it. And this was Stephen over in the UK. In 2 weeks, he doubled his income. Another person using this system was in a network marketing company. Couldn't make sales worth squat. Just had real terrible time with it. I said, look, you're obviously not focused in the right place. Start using the system and get your mindset tuned up. And once you're there and you're just doing these tasks consistently, you will make extreme changes. Now, here's what she said to me afterwards. She says, I literally went from struggling to make 1 sale in a week, and she goes, and that was a lot sometimes, to making 4 to 5 consistently. And this was just in a matter of weeks. So that's a very powerful tool because it gets you laser beam focused. And that's a $597 value. And the last bonus is I've included some special audio processes that will actually help you clear out your mindset and get you through some problems that have been holding you back. And I've included those. I've only used those typically for coaching clients, but I'm going to include those, and that's a $197 value. So all of that I'm offering you for $197. That's it. I wanted to make sure that you have what you need to succeed.
Or else you could just keep in the same treadmill as you've been. Because I know a lot of people who are just going like in a hamster wheel, and this seems like you have the knowledge that could get people off the wheel.
That is correct. And here's the thing. The system has been proven over and over and over with thousands and thousands of people. But you want to know what the number one problem is for people who think it doesn't work?
Yeah.
It's the lack of commitment of using it. That's it. And I asked them, I said, well, have you used this system? And they're like, well, I'm like, okay, what does that mean? No, on and off. Okay, so there's part of your problem. You're not committed to doing it. Because it all goes back to, have you made the decision to do it? Have you made the commitment to do it? And I guarantee you, if you just make the decision and the commitment today to really start tuning up your mindset, figuring out what your purpose in life is, and then finding that business that expresses your purpose in life, and then you follow the program as it's laid out, I guarantee it's as if you could not fail. Anybody who's ever done it, I mean, I've had many, many resistant clients that have literally said, this isn't working. I said, really? I said, are you sure it's not you? Yeah. And they said, well, I guess maybe it is me. And when they finally started using it, I mean, here's another person too. Gwen, she fought me for quite a while for using it. I said, look, here's the problem. If you don't use it, how do you expect to get a different result? And she goes, okay, you got me there. I said, so are you going to make the decision and the commitment to do it right now? She goes, sure, I will. And so I put her to task too. I even helped her out. I says, okay. I said, so for every day you don't use that system, you're going to pay me $100. And she says, okay. And I said, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to keep your money. I'm actually going to shred it and send it back to you. And she says, what? I said, yep, that's what's going to happen. And lo and behold, it didn't take very long. It literally took 3 weeks. And the next thing you know, her income literally doubled. Yeah. Why? Because she finally started working the program. Right. And that is the number one key. I mean, if you had to tell me, you know, why is that so important? Because here's the bottom line. If you don't do, how do you expect to get different results? That's right. That's exactly right. And, you know, a lot of people think you could wave the magic wand. Ain't going to happen. No. You have to make the commitment. But what's so great about this is that it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be a struggle. But you got to pick your butt up and get going, or you're going to keep having the same life that you've had before. But you're giving us a blueprint. You're giving us a roadmap, because I think the hardest thing for people is they don't know where to begin. And you are showing us not only where to begin, then where to go for the next step, and the next step, and the next step, until it's kind of like a booster rocket, until we're in orbit, and then you can drop off. But although in your program you do have a lifetime login, including updates, so you get that too. Exactly, and you brought up a very critical point here too, is being step-by-step, being step 1, step 2, step 3. And when you use the 90-day wealth conditioning program in conjunction with the other pieces, you literally have step 1, step 2, step 3. You will know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Well, this is fantastic, and as it was pretty self-evident, because you've given a lot of examples of people who came and did the program live, where there had to be airfare and lodging and food, and I know that the tuition to take the live event is a lot more than $195, and here they're getting everything for less than just the airfare. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and you can do this in the comfort of your own home. Yeah. Anytime you want. Yeah. And also you give 100% money-back guarantee. So there's nothing there's nothing to say no to. It's like, come on, let's switch it up now, and let's create the rest of our life to look like we want them to look. I love this program, Andy. I really do. You are amazing. You've given us so much. This program is off the charts. I want to give everybody the URL again. It's yourlifewithoutlimits.com/wealth, WEALTH. And before we sign off, I would just like to ask you, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with everyone before we go? Absolutely. The one thing, and I cannot say this enough, the one thing that you absolutely must do is focus on the 90% of the success, which is your mindset. Regardless of how you do that, that is the key piece. If you don't get straight with your mindset, no matter what you touch, it will be disaster. Trust me. Been there, done that, have the T-shirt to prove it. Learn from me. Don't make my mistakes, because I spent a lot of money figuring this out. You don't have to. The other key is you have to take action, and you must do. When you do and you really work on your mindset, you will have amazing results. Amen. This has been incredibly eye-opening, I have to say, and I thank you so much for being with us. What you have to share, it's so rich, and a lot of my guests tend to talk about what you would think more quote-unquote spiritual things, but you know what? To be wealthy, to have everything that you want in your life, to have your kids have what they want and send them to the best schools, have money for your retirement, take care of your elderly parents, all those things you want to do, it's not going to fall out of the sky. It's going to come by following
a blueprint, and a blueprint like you have laid out for us so powerfully. I can't thank you enough. So
you're welcome.
Will you come back again?
Absolutely, I will. And you did bring up an interesting point about this being spiritual. How many people would you really like to help?
A lot.
A lot. Okay, and most people would say the same thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep.
Here's the thing. How many people can you help when you're broke?
0.
Great. And see, your purpose in life is that God-given gift that you've been given. And then you and only you can fulfill it. Even if you may be in the same business as somebody else, but you will outdo them. Why? Because it is your God-given gift.
Yes. So true. So true. And you obviously walk your talk, and you obviously live what you teach, and that is living proof that this works. So thank you again.
Thank you, and it was an absolute pleasure to be here, and I look forward to doing this again sometime.
And I look forward to having you again. And I also want to say thank you to all of our listeners for spending this time with me and with Dr. Andy Fuehl, and I look forward to when we're together again and to you living your life without limits. This is Deborah Poneman. Have a fabulous rest of your day.